Hey Ridgekids, how are you? I miss you. I'm coming this week from my home, but I want to thank those of you who watched last week and rose to the challenge and posted the word forgiveness. You were so creative and we so appreciate that. And those of you who haven't, you still can because we're still talking about forgiveness. And what's forgiveness? Forgiveness is deciding that when someone has wronged you, they don't have to pay. And who better to teach us about forgiveness than Jesus? And so today we've got a story about siblings, two brothers, in fact. It's a parable that Jesus told as a way to help people understand something very important. As you remember, Jesus did and said so many things that crowds of people would follow him everywhere. Most of the time, Jesus was taking care of people's needs. He'd teach them, he was healing their sickness, he would even feed them. But sometimes, even Jesus would need a break. He'd have to climb mountains or sail away in a boat. He just needed a moment to himself. We all can relate to that, right? But then there were the Pharisees, the religious leaders. They were angry that Jesus cared about all the people, even the ones that didn't seem to be following all the rules. You see, the Pharisees were believing that if they followed the rules, that would make them closer to God than anyone else. And they didn't want that. So Jesus told them a parable to teach them a lesson. And so today, we're going to act out that lesson for you so that we can all understand this a little bit better. And it's all going to help us learn a little bit more about forgiveness. Okay? So sit tight and check this out. We're going to call this Total Drama Rama. And you might recognize a few of the actors in this little Total Drama Rama. Are you ready? Here goes. There once was a man with two sons. I have two sons. One day the younger son went to his father and said, "Father, give me my share of the family property." This was a strange request, because usually a son wouldn't get his share of the family property until the father was dead. "Why, son, why?" But the father agreed. "All right, I'll divide the property between you and your older brother." "Great, I'm packing up and getting out of this place." The younger brother packed up and moved to a faraway country. Faraway country, the younger son wasted all his money. And while he was doing it, he was eating candy. He wanted some video games. He wanted pizza. Yeah, pizza. He was just living a lavish lifestyle, just spending all the money of his father's. But that money did not last forever. I said it this way in the book of Luke, chapter 15, verses 14 through 15. The son spent everything he had. Then the whole country ran low on food, so the son didn't have what he needed. He went to work for someone who lived in that country. That person sent the son to the fields to feed the pigs. So the son now realizes he has no money, and now he knows he must get a job. So now he's feeding the pigs. And he starts to realize that he's so hungry. He gets so hungry that he starts to look at the slop and even think that maybe he should eat the slop that the pigs are eating, and maybe he should even take a bite. But suddenly, he thinks that's gross. And he sniffs the air. And he comes to his senses. And he says, "This is crazy. Even my father's servants have plenty of food. And here I am starving to death." And he says, "I know what I'll do. I'll go home and I'll beg my father to make me a servant. And I'll say this: 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and I have sinned against you. I am no longer fit to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants.'" So the son got up, and he went home. He could barely see his home in the distance. His father noticed he was coming, and the father's heart filled with love, he ran straight toward his son and threw his arms around him. "My son, you came back." To the father, "Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer fit to be called your son." But the father was so happy to see his son and returned that he called for the servants. "Quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fattest calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. This son of mine was dead, and now he is alive again. He was lost, and now he is found." They celebrated because the lost son had returned. So, well, while they were celebrating, not everybody celebrated. So to find out more, you'll need to come back next week for another exciting episode of Total Drama-Rama. Go to it, guys. Whew. Well, thank you so much for joining us for the Majorano Drama-Rama. And hopefully you won't ever forget it. I know I probably won't. But mostly you have learned something about forgiveness. And I know I have, because it's important that we remember that God says forgiveness is for all. Everyone deserves forgiveness. And that's what we need to remember mostly here about this story about the lost son. And remember, you can find that story in the book of Luke, chapter 15. And mostly, if you remember, you saw that the father was looking for the son before the son could even see home. The father was looking for him. And when he returned home, the father wrapped his arms around the son, and forgiveness was given freely. And that's pretty amazing, right? And then he threw a party for him. He threw a party for the son. And the son did ask for forgiveness. He did. And that's what we need to do too. And that's mostly what I want you guys to know, is that if there's someone that you need to ask forgiveness for, do it. I know it's a hard thing. It's a hard thing for adults to remember. It's a hard thing for kids to do, but we can do it. This week, what I want you guys to do is make a little invitation. Take a piece of paper at home, fold it up into a little card, and make an invitation. Make it look the best that you possibly can with your crayons, your markers, your stickers, and then post that. Thank you again last week for what you did with writing out the word forgive. And if some of you haven't done that yet, go ahead, you still can. Be creative with the word forgive, because this is a great lesson that we're talking about, forgiveness. So between the word forgive and your little invitations, we want to see how creative you all can be. We love you guys. We're praying for you all. And just remember, we're here for you no matter what. Have a great week until next week. And remember that Jesus loves you most. God bless.